Welcome to Puerto Rico English News, the only English-speaking broadcast of local Puerto Rican news and entertainment. Please subscribe. Keep us alive.
Hello and welcome to the new updated travel guidelines for Puerto Rico. As of March 10th, domestic travelers are not required to present proof of vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test prior to arrival to the island. Travelers arriving on international flights. Due to CDC guidelines, all travelers arriving on international flights must present a negative COVID-19 test, either antigen or PCR, taken within 1 day prior to departure along with proof of vaccination. Non-U.S. citizens or long-term residents will need to show proof of being fully vaccinated against COVID-19 before traveling by air to the United States from a foreign country. Travelers who test positive while on the island must quarantine and cover their own medical expenses / possible extended stay. To reiterate, if you are a traveler from an international destination, you must present a negative result of a molecular or antigen test for COVID-19 carried out a maximum of 1 day before boarding the plane to Puerto Rico. Cruise operations. Port of calls. For ships to be permitted entry to Puerto Rico, all guests 12 years of age or older must be fully vaccinated with an FDA or WHO vaccine. Unvaccinated passengers cannot disembark in Puerto Rico except for children under 12 years of age. Please check with cruise operators for their most up-to-date COVID protocols and regulations, as many operators require proof of vaccination prior to boarding and have specific testing requirements. For cruises ending in Puerto Rico, all guests will be automatically enrolled in the SARA Alert program upon disembarking the cruise ship. This is an open-source tool allowing public health officials to monitor individuals at risk for COVID-19 and is also the same alert program used for guests registering with Travel Safe for air entry. SARA alerts are text or email sent to each visitor, providing a link to a website that requests information as to the presence or absence of symptoms. It is a very quick and easy questionnaire. New protocol updates for on-island operations as of March 10th include: masks are not mandatory on the island for both indoor and outdoor settings. However, they're recommended in situations where vaccination status cannot be guaranteed. There are no capacity limits for establishments on the island. Patrons are not required to present proof of vaccination or a negative test result upon entry to businesses. However, as always, individual establishments reserve the right to implement their own health and safety requirements. Masks are required on all public transportation, including all ferries operating to and from Vieques and Culebra. As of March 10th, masks are no longer mandatory on the island. However, they are recommended in situations where vaccination status cannot be guaranteed. Public beaches, natural reserves, and marinas are open, following social distancing guidelines. Visitors should connect with tour operators directly for additional information about operation status and specific protocols. As of March 10th, guests do not need to present proof of vaccination or a negative test result upon arrival to hotels, paradors, guest houses, and short-term rentals across the island. However, individual properties reserve the right to implement any specific measures. Visitors should connect with their lodging property directly for additional information about operation status and specific protocols. As of March 10th, guests of dining establishments do not need to provide proof of vaccination or a negative test result taken 48 hours prior to arrival. Establishments are also not operating under a capacity limit. As of March 10th, masks are not mandatory in private and public spaces. However, various establishments reserve the right to require masks for patrons and employees. As of March 10th, masks are no longer mandatory at small events. Sporting events and recreational activities are permitted, following local guidelines. However, events of over 1,000 people are subject to situation-specific guidelines provided by the health department. Attendees of concerts and shows at the following venues, regardless of event size, are required to show proof of vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test result taken at least 72 hours prior. Coliseum of Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico Convention Center and the Coca-Cola Music Hall. Proof of vaccination with the first 2 doses will be sufficient and will not require the booster. Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory and excluded from the CDC requirement to provide a negative COVID-19 test result to return to the mainland United States. Quarantine mandates, recommendations, and entry requirements may vary by state. A continuous assessment of the situation in Puerto Rico and in the United States influences island-wide orders that prioritize the health and safety of residents and visitors. For travel recommendations provided by the CDC, visit CDC.gov. Masks are required in healthcare facilities also. You will see a link to travelsafe.pr.gov above. However, Puerto Rico English News has discerned that this information is not up to date. We will leave a link to the executive order in the description. We believe the information provided in this broadcast is accurate and up to date. Puerto Rico English News does not contribute to, oppose or approve any travel guidelines.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Please follow Puerto Rico English News on Facebook for up-to-date weather, news and information. Have an amazing stay in Puerto Rico.